Good morning, Mrs. Graham.
Good morning, Dr. Lowe.
Well, I'd like to ask you some things about your Area Boy project, which is now the Area Youth Foundation. And it's because of your work as a mentor to the youth in this group. So, just to begin with, what is your idea of excellence?
I think that word refers to a quality that surpasses the ordinary.
Okay. Thank you. And why or how did you decide to do this thing that you have become excellent at, and it is recognized in Jamaica that you are doing amazing work with the youth?
Stumbled into it.
How did you stumble?
I was involved in a theatre company. We decided to put on a play, and the play was about young people who were going astray and getting in trouble with the law. And I thought it was a good idea to do it in Kingston, where there are a lot of young people who are going astray and getting in trouble with the law. When the play ended, young people that we got involved with didn't want it to end. And they kept coming back and saying, you know, we want to do more, we want to do more. The play was called The Beatification of Area Boy, and it became necessary for us to think about it in less gender-specific terms. And so when we decided, okay, let's reconvene the young people after the play closed, let's call it the Area Youth Foundation, and that's how we got started.
Thank you. And why do you think Jamaicans can be excellent right here in Jamaica?
Well, because there are a lot of people who are striving after excellence and achieving it.
And we should be able to take others with us on the path.
Absolutely, and a lot of us are doing exactly that.
Okay. And what are some of the things you depended on or used or needed in order to become excellent at what you're doing, mentoring the youth?
I've never achieved anything by myself. Everything that I have ever achieved has been in a collective, because I can't. None of us really can. And I think when we all wise up to that, we'll get ahead much quicker.
And what or whose ideas inspired you into pursuing, once you got into this youth mentoring thing, whose ideas inspired you to really drive it home and get something done?
I began to realize that this was something that I wanted to do while I was at university doing, well, I didn't not focus on this particular project, but when I was at university, I was introduced to the concept of popular theatre and how theatre could be used for social change and to change lives. So that background was there, although it wasn't focused on any particular project or activity. But I have to say that that methodology, Dennis Scott and the School of Drama, which created the Groundwork Theatre Company and the Graduate Theatre Company, took the concept out into the schools and into the communities. The Sistering Theatre Collective, which brought together women who had been involved in very menial labor, street cleaning, etc., and created a phenomenal organization that empowered women. And I was always fascinated by these projects. So when the situation arrived and the opportunity arrived, I realized I could apply them to this.
And are you perfect? Why or why not?
Well, who is? I'm learning all the time, and I'm excited to see the way things are going now with young people who are doing things that I don't know how to do. They're expanding on what they learned, and they're doing amazing work.
Have you ever failed? And if so, what did it teach you?
Latin. And I learned that I don't need Latin. I think I don't know about failure. I mean, obviously there are goals that one has had in a personal life that we don't necessarily regard as success, but I think the hardest thing is to accept that not everybody's going to agree with what you're doing, but not everybody's going to see the value of it. And I know one of the hardest things that you have to do in this work is look for money and write proposals and be prepared to just take the no's and keep coming back. Otherwise, you won't get anything done.
Let me change focus. What challenges did you or do you have to overcome to be excellent at what you're doing here?
The challenges that you have to overcome. I think just frustration and despondency when things don't go well. That's a big challenge. I think finding the courage to keep coming back, and especially in the context of the fact that I worked in extremely challenged communities where there was a lot of social problems and violence. You had to believe somehow that what you were doing made sense and it was worth it.
All right. And did you or have you ever had mentorship yourself? Who were your mentors? Family, friends, colleagues? Who would you list as your mentors?
At different stages of my life, different people have played an important role. I remember when I was doing music, and I had a wonderful music teacher who was Mrs. Rich, and I was getting ready to leave Jamaica and go away to college. And one of the things I said to her was one of the reasons why I wanted to go away was because I could go to some place where nobody knew me, and I could like redefine myself. And she looked at me and she said, "But there's nothing wrong with you." And I thought, really? Later on, I met Jean Houston, who is a really internationally renowned teacher. And there's something she told me that I tell all my students. She said, as you go through the day, you will encounter people. Make sure that everybody that you encounter comes away feeling stronger rather than weaker. So in other words, don't let your interaction with people diminish them.
Mm-hmm. All right, and finally, if you were to say one thing to the people that you are mentoring, what would you tell them?
Don't give up.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay, Mrs. Graham, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.